All right, we are live. This is Kyle, I'm Will, and we're here to answer some Q&A questions. It took us a little bit.
Four different styles, so whatever your tank setup is, there's different ones that will fit for your needs. So we've got some like larger bio balls style, we have some smaller ones that are good for nano tanks, or there's like just ceramic rings as well. So it's really cool. They come pre-seeded, they're good for freshwater or saltwater, so you can pretty much instantly cycle your tank by adding these media options to your tank.
Yeah, my favorite aspect to them is that they put a few different media types, like you were saying. So they have the ceramic rings, they have the ceramic balls, but then they also have quartz, which I really like, because I find that if you're a lazy reefer, over time that ceramic kind of wears down and breaks down in your system. But something like quartz is going to last a lot longer. So I really like this product line. Very cool stuff.
Yeah, just launched, brand new, super exciting to me.
Pretty novel shape. Opening, it's really fun.
Yeah, I like it.
Cool stuff. And then we also got, my favorite tanks are going to be the Nios tanks. I have one maybe over there just a little bit. We might do something with later, but we have new ones, right? So Nios, they've been in Europe for a while, but they released the 200 and 250 line of those Opus tanks, and they are cool looking.
They are sick.
They're really cool.
Just like the other two tanks that we have currently or had currently, there's a slim line and the pro line option for both tank options, and it also comes in the same gray or white option as well. It just adds another two different tank sizes to choose from for your Opus.
Yeah, nice. The gray is really actually quite nice because of everything's black and white, black or white nowadays. So having that gray option is really cool. The stand looks really sleek. And actually, my favorite feature, I saw them. Well, we have one, but I saw them at Reefapalooza, and they were talking about how the background's not actually black. It's like a deep blue. And so when you put the water in it and you get the lights on it, it looks much deeper than a black background. So really cool tanks. Nios Opus, my choice of tank for sure.
I love them, especially the pro line. The cabinet's unique.
Yeah, and one more product that's new is those Seche hang-on back canisters. Really, really good for something like a quarantine system or temporary housing. Great to just kind of have in the back of your garage.
Yeah, and if you got freshwater and you're using hang-on back, they're another really cool option for hang-on back filtration.
Yeah, they got a lot of little features going on with them, and the Seche name that you love.
Yes.
Yeah. So those are most of the items. I mean, there's some more. We
Yeah.
got corals going on too, and some other fun things coming new. But what did we do today? Right. So we're here in the studio. We're filming. What were we doing?
We shot a couple videos, so we have a couple more coming down the pipeline hopefully soon. We're talking about coral mounting and fragging. Then we also talked about different additives for two-part dosing or just dosing alkalinity and calcium in general.
That's right. Yeah, that's a big topic for sure.
I think it's confusing.
It's confusing. It is. I want to do definitely a deep dive. We kind of did an overview look. I really want to get into the nitty-gritty of the additives. But what's your favorite additive? How about that?
My favorite additive, if we're talking for maintenance of minerals in the tank, is Alpha Reef.
Alpha Reef?
All the way. What
so
about
easy. It's so easy to use. The new Aquaforce one's really cool too.
Yeah.
I use Triton. I go the far opposite side. I take care of that big 360, the BRS 360, and that runs Triton Core 7, and it is pretty rock solid. It's a really cool additive. I don't end up dosing anything else, really. I put in the ICP tests once a month, and I've actually never been off on my ICP tests.
Oh, that's good.
Which is really nice. But sometimes you might have like manganese low, and you can go and add some. But other than that, I love that Triton method. Very cool stuff, but not cheap. Definitely not cheap.
Definitely not cheap. And then also speaking of videos, I saw a lot of people were a little riled up about my hot take for a beginner fish in the top 5 beginner fish video.
That was funny.
No, it is top 5 for each Will and I, not top 5 overall, because we each had our own list as far as what our top 5 beginner fish would be, and an honorable mention. So that's why there's 11 fish, not just 5. But
well, we don't need to count.
Yeah,
it's okay.
We don't need to count.
No.
But I did say mandarin fish, and there's a lot of people that are up in arms about that. I did note that there's a couple caveats as to why they are a beginner fish, and that is if you have a bigger tank and it's well established with copepods dosed to the tank prior to adding the mandarin. So just know I'm not saying anyone should just go and get it no matter what size tank you got. It's very specific, but they are pretty easy assuming you meet those conditions.
Yeah, and I think to dive further into that, I think even like any of the dragonet fish, scooter blennies, those other red dragonets, same thing. If you have a really large tank and it's really established, adding one, you're probably not even going to notice that you added it. So Yeah, definitely a great but controversial
Yes.
beginner pick. And then I think the other one people were commenting on was like the big aggressive clownfish, right?
Yes.
Definitely, I agree with you guys. Not a beginner pick if it's your very first fish or you have a smaller tank, but they're really, really good at just bringing color and life to your tank.
They're beginner in the sense that they're easy to take care of, not beginner in the sense that they're going to be a little aggressive towards those new fish additions that you add to the tank. So just use caution if you're using or have one of those larger clownfish species. I like them in a species only tank personally, so I would do like a 20-gallon cube, for example, with a pair of clownfish, and that'd be the only 2 fish in the tank.
They get really beautiful, and their dimorphism between the male and the female is crazy. You know, the females on those bigger Clarkies and stuff get huge, and the males stay really small, so it's really cool. And then one other thing that I did with Aaron behind the camera here, we filmed a video on setting up a JBJ20, the whole setup, everything. It's all parts and pieces of equipment that I would choose. We're staring at it right over there.
Yeah, it's right there.
It's all pieces of equipment that I would personally choose. I kind of just went and made a little shopping list myself and grabbed it from the warehouse. So stay tuned for that. It's coming. It should be really cool.
I can't wait to see how it turns out.
Yeah, but also let us know what you think should go in the tank itself in the comments. It's still sitting there empty, just cycling right now.
Yeah, no fish, no corals yet, so let us know.
Yeah. I have some ideas. I want to do something odd, so put it down below.
I like oddball, but I think we should start answering some questions.
Yeah, we got a few questions already coming in. Let's do some Q&A. And like I said, if you have any questions, put them down below, and we will do our best to answer them or start a discussion about it. So let's get right into it. We got Irene Klauber with, how do I get my canister filter to stop putting out microbubbles?
Well, microbubbles are usually because there's some bit of air trapped in there. So some canister filters have a way to purge the air out of it. So I recommend looking into how to do that with your specific canister filter model. If not, and it's just like a brand new setup canister filter, it might just be some microbubbles from the filter sponges. So check those two things. If it is the filter sponges, I would just take it apart, clean your filter sponges, give them a good squeeze, put them back in, prime the canister filter, and then get it back up and running.
Right. Yeah, and a few other things. See where it's sucking in the water from. If it's too close to the surface, it could be pulling water or air a little bit, and then that would mix and create a bunch of microbubbles. And then also check your tubing connections. Make sure they're secure, because even though maybe it's not leaking water out of there, it could be pulling air into it, and it could create microbubbles that way. Same thing with the gasket that goes around that canister filter. Check all those little connections that are supposed to be sealed. Make sure they're actually sealed. But yeah, you can purge it. If your canister doesn't purge, you can give it a little shimmy, a little shake.
Yeah.
That usually works. All right.
Good question.
Thank you, Irene. We got another question from William Cumming. I'm buying a complete tank with soft corals. When moving the tank and set it up again, can I add the tank water taken and then add the corals, say, within an hour or two? So if you're moving a tank, I would probably take some of the water, but probably not all of it. And then the same thing goes for the sand. I would also add new sand instead of using the sand.
Yes, and that said, the quicker you can get the corals back into the tank and the tank set up and running, the less likely stress is going to happen and set in and cause any issues with the tank move. Granted, it sounds like it's probably soft corals from the looks of it. They're not too picky or finicky, so I think you should be relatively fine. I would say my first tank setup was actually moving a whole 125-gallon tank, and the tank was an hour away from my house, and that whole project took, I think, 16 hours from start to finish. So yeah, I think it'll be fine with a couple hours without any issues.
Prepare for a long day for sure. Moving tanks takes about 3 times as long as I normally expect. Yeah, I would say just go ahead and move it. It shouldn't be too hard. The corals should be just fine. If you want to be really prepared, make some water at wherever it's going to be and heat that water up to whatever temperature the tank already sits at.
Yeah.
But other than that,
a water change.
You should be good. Yeah, no big deal. Thanks for the question. All right, we've got another one. John Gonzalez says, I've been cycling my tank for 17 days and my ammonia is at 0 ppm, but my nitrites are over 5 ppm and my nitrates are well over 160 ppm. Should I do a water change?
I would definitely say yes. So your ammonia is down, you have nitrites and you have nitrates, which means all the bacteria that you need are there. It's just you got some elevated levels for those parameters. I don't know how big your tank is, but I would shoot for doing something around 50 to 75%, assuming you don't have any fish or corals in there. Just because you're cycling, I'm assuming you don't. This would be the time to do a really large water change and get the nitrates down to the 5 to 10 part per million range, in my opinion. That way you're not dealing with high nitrates from the get-go.
Yeah, great answer. Thanks for the question. And we got another question live.
This is a great question.
I know who this is. From NN Outdoors. How many days till ice fishing in Minnesota? Hi, Chad.
I think I heard the answer was 80.
80. I heard it. It's officiated. Chad, the ice fishing wizard here in the office, said 80 days till ice fishing.
Yeah,
So.
Chad Boston. So if you have a discrepancy on that, shoot an email to support@bulkreef.com and say Chad, ice fishing is in like 81 days instead, just to see if it gets to him.
Yep, and send him your ice fishing pictures. He loves those. All right, thank you, Chad. Chris asks, when you measure low nitrate and zero phosphate or phosphorus while having green hair algae in the tank or green algae, how do you go about it? The algae is very hard to remove, but it's sucking all the nutrients from the water. So I think you're on the right track. If you're bottoming out on nutrients, but you're still growing large amounts of algae, it's probably that the algae is consuming it faster than it can populate the water. But like we always say, it's you. You need to manually remove it. Unfortunately, there's not much else to it. You can add some cleanup crew, but you should go in there and remove it yourself.
Yes. So anytime there's an algae issue, whether it be green hair algae, slime algae, dinos, anything like that, you are the best member of your cleanup crew. Manually remove as much as you can, and then add a little bit extra cleanup crew that will help you between water changes and when you're able to physically maintain the tank.
What kind of cleanup crew would you go for?
For me personally, I would look at, assuming you have at least a 15-gallon or larger tank, I would do a tuxedo urchin, maybe two, if you have a big enough tank. I would do some scarlet reef hermits.
Okay.
Trogus snails and sarin snails would be my go-tos.
I think we're on the same track. I would add Nassarius snails into there for your sand.
Yes.
And if your tank's big enough, then like a little conch.
We got cleanup crew members from Reef Cleaners recently. There's some small little snail that you recommended. I got those and I love them. I can't remember the name of them though.
Which ones?
They're like not Marginella snails. It starts with an M though.
Was it Nerite or?
No, they stay tiny. They're like.
They sent us.
I can't remember the name.
They sent us some really cool cleanup crew.
Yes,
that is
they
for
did.
sure. If you have a really big tank, I think you can use a fish to combat that. Something like a rabbit fish or a fox face or one of the grazing tangs.
Bristletooth tang.
Bristletooth tang, convict, yep. And then also same thing if you have a really big tank. Some of the bigger urchins, like the Halloween urchins, and then something like a sea hare would also be a really good cleaner. But you need to have enough food for them.
Yeah.
They will starve if you don't.
Yeah, especially the sea hare because they only eat one kind of algae.
Yep. So
just make sure that you're ready to rehome it or have some way to cultivate the food that it's going to eat if you get a specific nudibranch for a specific issue.
Exactly.
Whether that be flatworms or hair algae or anything like that.
Yep. Yeah, great question. If you have any more, let us know. All right, we'll do the next question. A Ship Show asks, they're a new hobbyist. I'm ready to add Dr. Tim's one and only to start my cycle. I watched his Machina video where he recommends the temp around 82 and salinity around 20. My pH is dropping. Should I add soda ash first?
I think that's
Or
baking soda.
Baking soda, sorry. Baking soda
Character
first.
limits, I tell you. So my recommendation is don't add baking soda. Don't need to worry too much about pH when you're cycling the tank.
Yeah.
Adding ammonia and nitrites and nitrate and the bacterial bloom that you're going to go through, pH is going to naturally be depressed because when bacteria are processing these nutrients, whether it be just the nitrifying bacteria or processing breakdown of waste or uneaten food in the tank, those bacteria consume oxygen to do all of that. So having a really high bacterial load in the tank means that your pH will naturally be lower because they're breathing out CO2 and taking in oxygen. So I would not worry about the pH until you have fish and corals in there, and probably wouldn't even worry about it until you're at a normal salinity of 1.024 to 0.26.
Yep.
From there, and then once you have corals in the tank that are stony corals, that's where it's really going to matter, but it's not even going to matter that much, assuming you're at least at 7.8.
Yeah, I think you'll find that once the regiment that you go through with the one and only has completed and you raise your salinity up, your pH will go up as well.
Yeah, so I wouldn't chase it until you have corals to worry about. And even then, I don't even recommend it unless you're trying to purposely grow corals to make money. So unless you're WWC, battle corals, or someone that's growing corals for a living to pay your paychecks, I wouldn't worry too much about pH being at 8.4 all the time.
Right, yeah, definitely. Thanks for the question. We got another one from Swishy's Gaming. Says, I just ordered some RODI filters, and would you sign the box for me? Order name is Robbins. I will. We get a lot of orders, So, but I'll tell you what, I'll go back there and I'll spend a little bit of time seeing if I can find it.
Yeah, we
And
gotta
then
find it.
if I can find it, I'll make him sign it and I'll sign it. Let us know if you want a little picture. Oh, Aaron wants to sign it as well. So
Yeah.
all three of us here in the studio right now will sign it for you. And I'll do my best to draw a little fish. I'm gonna go and find that.
Yeah, there's a lot of orders to find, but we'll see. We'll do our best.
I'll give it a little bit. I'll go dig through some of them.
Yes.
Thank you, Swishies. All right, Mike says, I had a small amount of cyanome. I couldn't beat it, so I chemi-cleaned it and beat it. Now I have low pH. pH before was 8.1 to 8.4, now it's 7.8 to 8.2. Was cyano oxygenating my water to keep pH up?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, totally.
So, cyanobacteria is photosynthetic, which means it consumes CO2 and produces oxygen as a part of that process. Just like what your corals do in the reef tank, and the algae in the tank does that too. So cyano, if you had a lot of it, which it sounds like you only had a small amount, so I don't think it was like that drastic, would have had a slight impact. I wouldn't worry too much. I don't know what your whole system looks like now with coral growth and stuff like that, but if you have corals that need 2-part supplementation or just alkalinity calcium added to the tank to keep it stable, look at doing something like soda ash as a part of it.
Right.
ESV, Red Sea Foundation, those are good solutions to adding alkalinity while also boosting your pH.
Definitely. Yeah, and I would say with the 360, whenever I harvest that large Kato ball and I cut it about in half, my pH also lowers. So pretty normal. Anything that's growing in most things that are growing in your tank, especially macroalgae or bacteria, are going to consume that carbon dioxide.
Yes.
Yeah. A great question. That is an interesting one. I've actually never really thought about it that way. Never seen it happen in practice, so it's interesting.
The chemistry and processes that go on in our reefs.
Right, it's crazy. All right, got another question. We got one from Dean Welsh saying, my tank is 6 months old. My phosphate is between 0.15 and 0.2, and my nitrate is 2 to 5 ppm. I do a weekly 10% water change. Should I try more water changes or phosphate removers at this point? I wouldn't. These are pretty normal numbers, I'd say. It's a little bit elevated on your phosphates, but I wouldn't say it's completely out of this world to have above 2 or 3 or 0.2 or 0.3 phosphate. More so, look at what's going on in your tank. Are you growing excess algae? Are your corals growing? Are they extending all the way? If you're not having any issues, I would not try to chase numbers.
Yeah, the way your corals look and behave is going to be the best indicator as whether something is doing good or off as far as parameters go. So don't just rely on a number on your test kit. There's all sorts of ways that number could be false or does not matter as much as we think it does. Just remember all of those guides out there, whether it be ours or someone else's, they're just a guideline to kind of give you in the right ballpark, but there is no like one specific number that's best for every single reef tank, because I've had some tanks where 0.1 is too high. They only do well if I have a 0.03, and I have other tanks that are like 0.3 is like the sweet spot to get the best coloration and growth out of my corals.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we're sitting right in front of some tanks that act exactly like that. This tank, the Max Spec here, does not like any phosphate whatsoever. The corals all shrink up when any phosphate shows up on the tests. And then the 360 down the hall sits at about your levels of phosphate, 0.1, 0.2, somewhere around there, and the acros are blowing
good.
up. They're blowing up. I have to keep fragging them. It's quite annoying.
yeah, there's a tenuous in there that is so bushy.
Yeah. Yeah, so it just goes to show it doesn't really matter what your levels are as long as they're stable and not causing any issues. Alrighty. Thanks for the question, Dean, by the way. If you got any more questions, let us know below. We'll do our best to answer them for you. We got another one from Matthew. He says, why do some people not like the Hanna Digital salinity tester?
I don't know exactly why specific people don't like a specific product, but I will say with every single product, whether it be refractometers, whether it be reef tanks, whether it be additives, everyone has their own opinion on what they like and don't like about a product. Every person values certain features or aspects of a product that may not be important to you, but are super important to them, and vice versa. So I will say that you're gonna find this with every product. People don't like it, people like it, regardless of what product it is. Yeah. There's definitely alternatives. If you want a digital readout, but want something that's a little bit more like bigger displayed, you don't have to put it physically in the tank. There's like the Milwaukee refractometer that I think is really good, really popular as well. You got just regular handheld refractometers that go up to your eye, which aren't digital, but are pretty solid as far as I've experienced, and also super affordable. So
yeah, I'd say like you said, there's ups and downs to all of them. I'll actually go over some of the downs for each one because I've used basically every single one, and they all have a downside because they're all a tool that you got to use. The refractometer is very sensitive to light, the ones you put up to your eye. So if you're not putting the right amount or even the right color of light, that line might shift slightly. So that one's a little challenging to use. Again, all of these, the consistency is key. The key is consistency. That's how you say it. So with the refractometer, point it at the same light you're going to use every time. Make sure there's no bubbles in that water, and that one's good to go. The Hanna handheld tester, very similar problems, right? If you have any bubbles underneath that sensor, it may not read correctly. If there's a ton of electromagnetic current going through the water, since it's a titanium probe, it may cause issues for that. So with that Hanna checker, I always just scoop a little thing out of the water and test it in that, and it works just great. Just make sure there's no bubbles on it. And then for that Milwaukee tester, which I'd say these are the 3 common ones, the Milwaukee tester is very sensitive to temperature and also light. And so with that Milwaukee one, I like to warm that little panel up a little bit, squirt some of the fish tank water on it, wipe that off, and then add your fish tank water to it. And then I also use my hand to dome over that little sensor.
I do a hand trick too.
And just because if you have an overhead light that's pointing directly into that optical sensor, it could cause issues. And so they all have kind of methodologies in which you're going to want to use to operate them, but they all work great, and it comes down to personal preference. I use the Hanna ones for quick tests, and then I use the Milwaukee for basically everything else.
Yeah. I'm in the same boat. I've used them all. I honestly, each one has its ups and downs, and it just comes down to what you want to spend, what you want to rely on, what one you're going to actually use and be reliable with each and every time.
Oh, an honorable mention to the floating hygrometers.
Hydrometers?
Hydrometers.
From Tropic Marin?
From Tropic Marin. That's the way to tell your salt. That is the way. Now, they're really sensitive, so if you have, if you leave it floating for too long, it'll grow algae, and then that'll actually weigh it down. If you don't get any bubbles off of it, it won't float properly. But that is the most accurate, at least in our hobby, way to test your salt without spending a fortune.
Yeah, I think the hydrometer, if I'm not mistaken, is how labs would technically test salinity
I believe so. Yeah. So that's the way to go if you want absolute accurate testing. But the Hanna's great. The BRS refractometer is really good, and the Milwaukee ones is really cool as well.
Yeah, plenty of options out there.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Matthew, by the way. That was a really good question. We've got another one from KZ Tropicals, who says, "Hello, I have a new reef aquarium that is 2 months old. I put live and dead rock in it. What's your advice?" Well, that's a loaded question. I'm going to give you some of my personal advice when it comes to being a new reefer. It's really exciting and it can be really overwhelming, but slow down. Slowing down, being patient is the way to go. Not implying that you're going fast, but a lot of us want to go fast. You want to add corals. Maybe you go to the fish store. You went for 1 coral and you buy 3. You should probably just buy the 1. So definitely slow down, add things slowly, change things slowly, and you'll find success. That's really the key.
Yeah, I would say research is your best friend. So if you are going to the fish store because you want, say, a zoanthid for your first coral, bring your phone with you. Make sure you have a resource where you can look up. If you see another coral, ask the local fish store what it is, and then do your own research on it. Not saying that all local fish stores are like this, but there have been cases where when I was newer to the hobby, they're like, oh yeah, that's just like a perfect fine beginner coral. But they'd leave out the fact that it's actually an SPS coral, maybe a bird's nest, but now I'm taking care of a coral that needs more light than what I actually can provide for it.
Right.
So just make sure that you have an idea of what the coral's care requirements are before you purchase it. Same goes for fish. I think that's the biggest downfall of anyone in the hobby is they don't research everything before they get it, and then they get it and then realize after the fact it's not what they thought it was or requires something vastly different from what they can provide. And then that either leads to them having to rehome it or unfortunately the organism dies, and that's no fun.
Yeah, definitely. We're all impulsive creatures. This is the hobby that we love doing, and so we want to have fun doing it, but these are living animals, and so we do have to be responsible in that regard.
Yes. Yeah.
So go slow, be conscientious about what you're adding to the tank, and you should be just fine. And in specific, you asked about the live and dead rocks. No problem. You'll be just fine. The live rocks will eventually seed the dry rock, and then they'll all become live rock. And any potential pests that show up with that live rock, most pests nowadays are pretty manageable. not a big deal.
I would say you're also going about setting up a tank the same way I would, where I like to mix dry rock and live rock together.
Oh yeah. Alrighty. Let's see. We got another question coming in from Jaseri White. Says, I've been working on building my tank, but haven't had the time to work on it. Is it a good idea to cycle my dry rock in a container to decrease cycle time? If so, is it the same as cycling a tank? Oh, so we just got a message in from Josh.
Oh, yeah.
That's exciting. We have found Swishy's Gaming's order.
Perfect. We're going to sign it after this live stream.
We're going to sign it. I don't know what to draw yet. I said maybe clownfish. I don't know. I'm going to think about it. I'm going to draw something cool.
We'll see who the best artist is.
Oh boy, we're not good. We're not good artists, but it comes from the heart, and that's what matters. All right, so Jaseri asked about basically curing rock. They said they have a tank, but they don't have it ready to set up. They don't have the time to set it up. Should they cycle the rock in a container to decrease cycling time? Well, I have that going on in my office right now. Maybe don't tell my boss, but there's some rocks just sitting in the back of my office in some water in a barrel curing. And so yes, I totally recommend it. It is my favorite way to start a tank. Tank that has been sitting and curing in salt water with bacteria for ages is like an instant tank.
Yes.
It's
easy way to get it going right away.
The easiest way, yeah. So I did, I'll tell you a little bit. I got 3 Pukani rocks. I found them in a rock bin way in the back of the lab a few years ago, and they've been sitting in there. And I pull them out, and they're no longer, that Pukani kind of brown, light brown. They're now properly covered in bacteria. Very cool.
See, I need to go to my parents' house and get all my old rock from my first tank because it was Picati.
Oh yeah.
So I'm gonna have to throw it in the bin with your rock.
Yeah. So and you also asked, is it the same as cycling tank? It's not quite the same. So there are some bacteria that use photosynthesis, and if you're cycling it or curing it in a bin, you're not going to grow any of those because there's no light on the bin. But that's really about it.
Yeah. So if you're doing just standard dry rock, I'm picturing like Marco rocks. All you have to do is add an ammonia source, add a biobacteria, you're set. It'll cycle on its own, so you'll have the nitrifying part done. Yep. But you're not going to be fully cycled in the sense of like a full microbiome. It's not going to be set in a dark bin without light.
That's right.
Or a source to add some of those beneficial bacteria that come in on like frag plugs and other natural biomedia. So depending on how you want to go about it, if you have someone that already has a reef tank that that has some biomedia in their tank, you can just take a little piece of their biomedia, throw it in that bin with it, and you'll be set. Otherwise, if you have a friend that has a reef tank that you think looks really good, really healthy, you can also just get some biomedia, put it in their tank, and then when you set up yours, you can just add that to your sump.
Yeah, definitely. Getting some established rock just from somewhere you trust is really the key. I'll also say my bin is running with a heater and with flow, and on the flow I'm using one of those Siche, is it the Shark with the additive containers at the bottom?
Yeah.
The modular ones, yeah. So I have one of those going on with some...
Shark's skimmer, sorry.
Siche makes it. It's very cool. It has a little additive container at the bottom. I have GFO going on in there, or actually RoaPhos.
Yeah, because Picani rock had a lot of phosphate in it.
Yep, it's all that organic material. Even then, even if I have Marco rocks, any mined rock, I would definitely run phosphate remover through. You don't have to, but if you have it going already, I would run it.
Yeah.
Anyways, there you go. Thank you, Jaseri, for the question. Got another one coming in. Alex Griffin asks, coral booming and macroalga is booming in growth as well. Phosphates are 0.32 on my HANA master multi-parameter. Should I change anything? The ulva escaped in the refugium. Best option to remove. Oof.
Okay. This is going to be a two-part. So addressing the phosphates, like Will and I've already said, your phosphates may not be a bad number. Look at your corals in the tank, see how they're reacting. If they're doing well, if they have good coloration, I wouldn't worry too much about it. I do feel really bad for you though on the ulva getting out of the refugium though, because I had that happen and it was in a nano tank, and unfortunately there's not a lot of good fish that eat ulva for a nano tank, because my piece of advice is going to be urchin, and tang of some sort or rabbit fish.
I'd go for pencil urchin. I'd go for if you can find one like really tiny. If you have a small tank, that should be just fine. Tangs, rabbitfish, other big fish are really the other options. 0.32 is getting to the point where I start to get a little concerned, but like you said, look at the coral first. Don't do anything drastic if nothing drastic is happening to the corals, but it's creeping up there to the point where I'd probably do something about it. Something in specific that I would recommend is the MaxSpect Phosphoree. It's a resin-based phosphate remover, so instead
Yep.
of the GFO, which is granular ferric oxide, it's going to be a resin, like in your DI cartridge, and it's going to bind to those phosphates and remove them slowly over time. So you put them in a reactor, and over the course of a while, that phosphate lowers. Instead of something like high-capacity GFO or RoaPhos, that's going to strip it like quickly.
Yeah. So if you're assuming your nitrates are fine and they're where you want them, I would look at something like phosphorus, GFO, RoaPhos. If you do go the RoaPhos or GFO route, I would just add a small amount. Start with like the half the recommended dosage for your tank size. That way you don't like strip it out too fast.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for asking.
Yeah.
All right, we got another one, and we're doing Q&As, right? So if you got a question, put it down below. Let us know. If we don't get to it now, we'll get to it next live stream.
Yeah, otherwise we're
Keep
just going
going.
to yap about whatever we want.
Yeah, we just keep talking. All right, we got another one from MT. Hello there from Germany. Is there a lifespan for scolemia, and how often should they be fed without overfeeding? Thanks in advance. All right, so I don't actually know if there's a lifespan for scolemia.
I don't think, I may be mistaken in this, but I don't think corals necessarily have a lifespan because they live for hundreds of years in the ocean naturally.
Right.
I will say that scolemia, in my experience, I have not really kept them, so I can't really answer as far as how long they last. Same with like acanthophilias, I haven't kept them just because I don't.
Sure.
It's just.
I've done servicing on some tanks that they've had scolemia like well over 20 years. So they're definitely a long-lived species. Now, getting them to reproduce is pretty intense. I've seen some videos of people attempting it, and I can't remember the company, but someone has finally successfully done it.
I think that was the Florida Aquarium.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very cool. But I've had my scolemia like let out eggs in my reef system. So that's a really easy way to tell if your scolemia is not only mature, but also healthy. And in terms of how often should they be fed, every 3 to 5 days is something I would say. If it's a meaty food, I'd go closer to 5 or 7, like once a week, maybe. And then if you're just broadcast feeding or feeding a powder like a reef chili, you can do it every other day.
Yeah, I'm typically like a once a week person for my LPS corals, like acans, micromucilords, plastos, all that. I'm like once a week. And I'll spot feed them with either mysis shrimp or the LPS pellets.
Yep.
Type of thing.
And they react really, really well to any of those like pre-feeding liquid additives.
Like the polyp up.
The polyp up, or anything that claims to open the coral up. You might have felt like maybe that product wasn't working. Try it on a scolemia, it will work. Acans, scolemia, lobos, they open up like crazy for that stuff. They're gonna send out their feeding tentacles. And then I love loading them up with like the Benepets powder or reef chili.
Good choices.
All right, got another question. A ship show says, how big of a tank do you recommend for bristletooth or yellow tang for a cleanup crew for my future algae problems?
Well, I hope you don't have future algae problems. I don't wish that upon anybody. But if you're talking bristletooth tangs, I'd recommend something in the 4-foot long, 75-gallon range. Yellow tang, I would recommend at least a 124 foot by 2 foot at the very minimum, if not 6 foot, just because I think they look best when they're big.
I'm right on the same page. I like giving the xerosomas, the more circular ones, I'll give them about anything 6 feet or longer is all good with me. And then the bristle-tooths, give them 4 feet. They don't get quite as big and they don't move around quite as much.
Yeah. So 4 to 6 foot tank for all of those. You can start any of them off as a juvenile in like a 3 foot, 60-ish gallon tank.
Yeah.
But just know that that's not good for a long-term home.
Yeah, and definitely we always talk about, rehoming a fish when it gets too big. I find that unless I actually know where it's gonna go, I have a hard time getting rid of that fish at the end. Yeah. So definitely plan ahead, know where it's gonna go before you get a fish that will outgrow your tank.
Oh, this is a loaded question.
All right, Alex Griffin asks, Tropic Marin, Brightwell, or Aquaforest, which is your favorite in order? I think we're gonna have different answers.
This I can't answer just as a blanket statement because it depends on the product category that we're talking about.
Yep.
Because if we're talking like...
Let's break it up. All right, so let's do additives. So like 2-part, 3-part. So calcium, alkalinity, magnesium additive. Favorite to least favorite.
So if we're talking additives in that scenario, let's do 2-part, like a true 2-part where it's calcium, alkalinity are separate parts.
Yes, yeah.
I would say Aquaforest, then Tropic, then Brightwell. If we're talking like all-in-one supplement, Off Reef has my heart, like hands
Yes.
down. So Tropic Marin would be
Yep.
my favorite. Off Reef would be my second, or Aquaforce would be my second.
Yep.
Brightwell doesn't have one yet. I don't know if they will, but Brightwell's not there, so I can't give them a place.
I knew we'd have different answers. I'm a big Brightwell fan. Tropic Marin still kind of reigns king for me. They just really reliable across the board, but Brightwell has really cool products. Their product lines are innovative, interesting, new. So I'll go Tropic Marin, Brightwell, and then Aquaforest.
Yeah.
But really, nowadays they're all quite good.
They are quite good.
How about other additives like aminos, traces?
Okay. Aminos, Brightwell has my heart hands down.
Yes.
The Coral Amino, it's like the first one I used, and I've never felt the need to switch off.
Yep.
I also like that they have the new Coral Inertia and the, is it the NRG?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
that combo, I love using that combo a lot. I like
Okay.
the amino acids, so they have my heart for that. Aquaforce would be my second. Tropic would be last for that one. I don't think I've used their amino acid mix.
I haven't used the Tropic, but
it's there.
It's there, and I trust Tropic, so I would definitely put them up there.
And then if we're talking food,
Okay.
Aquaforce wins
Yeah.
on food, in my opinion.
I think I'm gonna, yeah. So for aminos, I would go Brightwell, of course, top. And then honestly, I'm tied for Tropic Marin and Aquaforest. I haven't used either of them, but I've done some research on both of them, and I've seen them, and they both look really good. In terms of food, Aquaforest has it nailed. They got the it's refrigerated after you open it, but it's shelf
So shelf
stable.
stable from the start.
And that you can't beat that.
No, I like
cool stuff.
I like shelf stable stuff.
And in terms of aesthetics, you can't beat the purple. The purple
is very
really
aesthetically
cool.
pleasing.
The purple's really cool. Brightwell feels very like sciencey, and Tropic feels very modern science.
Yeah, Tropic feels very German, very, very German.
Very German. Well, it feels like they know what they're doing. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
All right. What are your guys' favorite? Put it down below. Let me know. All right. We got another question. John Gonzalez asks, I have a 15-gallon tank and doing a 50 to 75% water change. Should I heat the water before adding it to my tank? When you're going for that big and that small of a tank, I might heat it up, especially if the temperature of the room is cold or the water that you're making is cold. That is a bigger water change than a small tank. It also depends on what's inside. If it's softies and clownfish, I might not be as concerned. But with something, and again, it depends on the temperature of the water.
Yeah.
But yeah, with more delicate creatures and critters, I definitely would.
Yeah, I would say my cutoff for heating the water, or like being really picky about how closely it matches between water changes, is 50% is like where I start actually trying to make it match, just because that is such a big volume of water, regardless of tank size. Especially with temperature, and mostly dependent on how big the temperature swing is going to be. So if your room is at like 68 degrees and your reef's kept at 80, definitely heat it up, because you're going to have a big temperature drop otherwise.
100%. All right, thanks, John. We got another question from Matthew. Says, I notice a lot of people using and buying the individual Hanna testers. Why do you think they buy those and not the Hanna Marine Master?
Okay, that's a good question, because I'm the person that will buy the individual checkers personally.
I have the Marine Master. All right.
I like the Hanna Marine Master in the sense that it is one device. You don't need to buy multiple, which is great. But for me personally, when I do test day, I want to get it done as fast as possible, because I hate testing.
Right.
So I will get the multiple checkers, because then I can test each parameter at the same time, rather than having to wait for each test to finish individually. I think when I'm really in the zone and focused, I think I can do nitrate, phosphate, alkalinity, and calcium all at the same time.
Yep.
I can't remember what order I do it in. I have my notes to remind me, like, based on
That
timing.
7-minute nitrate test. Yep.
That 7-minute nitrate test gives me a lot of window to do other tests in the meantime. So
That's it.
That's
really
me
it.
personally.
I think that's it. When I test here in the office, I have all these tanks to test, and I have the big 360 to test as well. I test with the little individuals, but then at home, since I'm patient, I'm having fun, relaxing, staring at my tank usually, I will use that Marine Master. Also because I am terrible at writing it down at home, and I forget the instant it's tested, and it remembers in the little Marine Master.
Nice.
So it has a little memory. Yeah.
Forgot about that.
That's nice, but also, if same thing with basically any product, is when you stick all these features into one thing, if that big one thing breaks, all of them are broken. So if you have the individual little tests and one of them manages to break somehow, you drop it or you break it, you don't have to go out and buy all the rest of them. So that is another reason. But yeah, up to you, really. It doesn't matter. They test exactly the same way, using the exact same reagents. So they should be the same.
Just how you want to stagger it.
Yep. All right. Alex with a comment says, I run Aquaforest for salt, Brightwell for aminos, bacteria like the purple, Oh, Brightwell for aminos and bacteria and supplements, and All for Reef is my workhorse. Yeah.
See?
All three of them, basically. You got Tropic with the All for Reef. You got Aquaforce for the salt. The salt's on Aquaforce. Oh, yeah, we didn't go over the salts. I really like that Brightwell salt. That stuff's cool.
I haven't used it. I have not used the Brightwell one, but I've used Tropic and I've used Aquaforce, and I like both of them.
Yeah.
I think they both have their unique needs. I like the hybrid salt from Aquaforce a lot.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, really cool stuff. Thanks for letting us know what you're using, Griffin. All right. Another question. We got Irene again asking, I'm filling a huge 200-gallon tank. Should I add one fish at a time or add a group all at once? With bigger tanks, I would go all at once.
Well, depends on the fish that you're adding.
Right.
So if you're doing tangs and you have the tank volume to do so, especially if you're keeping more than one in the same tank. So I know a lot of people in bigger tanks like keeping like three to five yellow tangs.
Yep.
You have to add them all at the same time. So add them in a group. But if you're doing a couple different fish, if you want like 2 clownfish, there's nothing wrong with just adding the 2 clownfish.
That's right.
And then giving it a couple weeks and then adding more. But
yeah.
I would say I wouldn't add more than 5 fish at a time just to stabilize things.
Yeah. The one downside to if you add, let's say you have your 200-gallon tanks completely empty and you add just a pair of clowns, like a small pair of clowns, it's pretty hard to feed those guys.
Yeah.
It's very hard to feed just 2 fish in 200 gallons. So in that case, I would, if you're getting little small fish, I would, like 5 is a good number, like you said. Say if you're getting something that schools like Antheus, you could even bump it up to like 7 or 8, but 5 is a good number.
Yeah.
And for the first group of fish, personally, I would add like 5 of them.
Yeah. Just be ready for all their care needs and make sure that you look at what you actually want to add to the tank and then add them in the right order is my biggest piece of advice.
Yep. Perfect. All right, we got another question from Alexander Golst. Says, what is the best bang for the buck on dosing? What's best bang for the buck?
All right.
I think it's still the BRS 2-part?
Yeah, I think it is BRS 2-part. Does it mean that you don't do the hybrid balling method with the trace elements? I think if you just do I think if you just do the straight BRS 2-part with soda ash, calcium chloride, and the magnesium, I think that's still the best bang for your buck. You're going to get the most out of it. We have to recrunch the numbers. So it's been a while since we've done that, but
yeah, and I think there's up there. A few brands that get close. I think Aquaforce gets decently close. Bionic gets decently close.
Yeah, and I think we have to reevaluate All for Reef because we didn't do All for Reef before the powder was released or after the powder was released.
Yeah, so the All for Reef, the powder is very affordable,
yes.
but the liquid is not.
Exactly.
So if you're lazy like me, you get the liquid for your home tank and just spend extra. Or if you're more DIY, you can get the powder and mix it yourself and save
a lot of money.
A good amount of money. Yeah, it's definitely worth mixing it yourself, but I'm not that kind of person. So.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for the question. Jake says, hey guys, think I can keep coral and inverts in the future if I added half a dose of cupramine into my tank? I plan on using Cuprasorb and polyfilter.
I wouldn't risk it personally, just because if you have an aragonite sand bed and your rock is calcium carbonate based, it's going to absorb that, so it's going to be leaching for quite a while.
Yeah.
I'm not too worried about it like being in the silicone. I think that's a bit of a farce as far as like how concentrated it is when it leaches from there. But if you have any calcium carbonate or aragonite based things in the aquarium, it's going to absorb the medication. So it's not going to be effective to dose it. If you do feel the need to dose anything like cupramine or copper power, do it outside your display tank just so you're not adding it and having to add a bunch of it because your rockwork's absorbing all the medication.
Yeah, definitely. I think the kind of common fallacy of it getting stuck into the silicone comes from like fish stores where you buy a used tank from a fish store and they run their fish system using copper
all the time.
That would be kind of the scenario in which it would bind into the silicone or maybe pieces of your equipment. But in a normal tank, it'll go right into your rock, like you said. So definitely, it's like a sponge, and you'll keep adding more and more and more, and your levels won't be at therapeutic levels for copper for a little bit of time. So people run into that issue when they're doing like fish-only tanks. They have to keep adding. I would avoid doing that. If you can scoop out whatever you're trying to treat and treat it separately, that would be my method.
Exactly.
All
right. We're gonna do one more question today before we wrap up.
Yeah, let's do another one. Caleb asks, got some rocks from a neighbor that he had outside for a couple months. Started breaking and scaping today and noticed a lot of stuff on the inside like bugs and debris. How should I go about cleaning? That's basically how Pukani used to come.
Yeah.
And so if you go way back and you watch videos on like how to deal with Pukani or those kinds of things, that's how I would do it. But a quick rundown, I would soak it in something.
Yeah. I don't want to advocate for using caustic acid, but muriatic acid soak for the rocks would probably be a really good option for this, because it'll help dissolve any of that organic material that's just sitting there, like all the bugs and stuff like that. Just make sure that you use the proper personal protective equipment and use caution when you're handling it, so you don't get any burns.
Please use goggles. Yeah.
But that'd be my recommendation personally.
Yeah, I'd go for more. If you need the rock soon, that's really your only option. You could get in there and scrub them if you wanted to, but that's about it. If you don't mind waiting for a long period, you can cure your rocks, which you just, like we were talking about before, you stick them in a bin,
with
hot water,
Yep.
salt water, water flow, and leave it for a few months. The bacteria will break down all the organic material that's within the rocks. And if you just go in there and like shake the rocks every once in a while, after a few months, you'll find that there's a detritus floor in your bin. And that's all of the organic material that was on it. And then you can pull your rocks out, give them another scrub. Should be good to go.
Yeah, just run GFO with that. So
awesome. Well, that's all for now. If you got more questions, come watch us next time.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching.